You're listening to the Table Talk with your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life. Tune in every other Thursday starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and a new special guest live on Facebook and Twitch. Without further ado, let's start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Table Talk. My name is Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life, your host, and forgot to pick the actual lower third off here, but why don't we just get started with that? Thank you for all joining in with Table Talk tonight, episode 24. We got an awesome show for you guys tonight. We have a great guest who is a very well-known musician from the Philly area, but now residing in on the West Coast, and we'll be getting to talk with him in a little bit, but I wanted to also address my Patreon, Bernadette, Dave, and Mary. Thank you all for being a part of the Patreon group over on Patreon. And if you guys want to join the Patreon account, please make sure you use the link in the description of this feed tonight and go to patreon.com/table_talk. We have an awesome community that's building over there. And there will be bonus footage coming up after this show goes off the air tonight with me and my special guest. So make sure if you want to see more footage after the show tonight, tune in with that. Join the Patreon. There's 3 different tiers that you can choose from. And it has a lot of cool content that I'm trying to build up content over there and make it fun for you guys outside of the show as much as doing this every bi-weekly show. And I love doing this with you guys. Thank you for the community that is being built over here. Really appreciate all the Table Talk supporters that are coming to me outside of the show. And if you guys also want to join the fan group on Facebook, make sure you search Table Talk Community on Facebook, and there is a public group that I just started about a month ago. So I've been, putting in some little bit of content there, some extra audio clips from the episodes, and if you are a Patreon, you'll be getting your notifications right through the Facebook group as well, because I know with Patreon, usually you are getting email notifications. I know some people usually don't always check their emails, so I thought the best access way was to make a fan page over on Facebook. I know everybody usually has a Facebook these days, so if you haven't joined that over there yet, please make sure to go over there and search Table Talk Community on Facebook and join the fan page or Facebook group. So without further ado, let's get into tonight's guest. I'm looking forward to having a good conversation with him. Let's bring in Chris Ryan, everybody. Hey, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, Anthony. I'm doing fantastic. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a long day over here in the suburbs of Philadelphia, where we were having some hot weather this week, and today we started having a little bit of rain, so it's kind of been a good cool off session to kind of usually with a lot of different heat indexes, there's always some rain behind it, so it's always good to have a cool off session before the heat rises again.
Wait, so that's actually true, right? Because it doesn't get talked about that much, but when it gets really hot for a while and then it gets cooler after that, then it's about to rain. Is that's generally accepted knowledge?
I've always noticed that trend. Like usually, especially in the summers here. I mean, that you've been here from Philly, you kind of know it pretty well. But usually, you get those 3-4 days of really big heat indexes, like 90, 95, close to 100, and then we get a big thunderstorm for like 2-3 days after.
So we have that in a maximalism over here. So basically, the way it works is. It won't rain for about 3 months, and then when it does rain in San Jose, that's where I live, by the way, y'all. It's crazy. It's nice almost every day, but there comes the season, and it's going to rain for 2 weeks straight. And so when we first got here, we went to like Walmart or whatever because we were poor because we just got to Cali. And we're just like, "Yo, where's the windbreakers at?" And they're like, "Yo, honey, those sold out 3 weeks ago. You weren't ready." They're like, God. But anyways, that's how it works. It's like it doesn't rain for a long time, and you're like it's due, and then the wind starts going whoosh,
yeah.
And you're just like, okay, so then it's going to bring the cold front. Okay, and then 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy just how much like a the West Coast, the East Coast has like so much of a different pattern of weather throughout the year, and with being on the East Coast, you get all four seasons. Where sometimes on the West Coast, you're just getting you get a little bit of a winter, you get a little bit of a cold couple months, but it's not like over here where we're sometimes experiencing like 20-30 degree temperatures and all. But especially with this last winter, we were just talking about it last night that even in the Midwest, they're starting to get like snow, and they never even really experienced that much snow. It's crazy.
I saw the guy. Did you see the video that really drove it home for me? Was the guy skiing on the highway in Houston? Just
I think so. I probably did see it at a point.
and then he was just going by everybody like, "Hey, it's lit."
Yeah, right. Like, you don't see that every day, so that's gonna be something on the internet that's like, oh well, I've seen everything today. Like the internet's wild. So, you were saying that you were born and raised in the Philadelphia area, correct?
Right. So, one of the things that I wanted to clarify with you, because Anthony and I actually we've been on a podcast together before in the casual. I know him. I watched the show that he did with my good friend Zach, so I'm pretty familiar with Anthony actually, but we never met in person. But I used to hang out at the Old State Tavern and go to I'm from Chestnut Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up working in Delco. So the reason I know these folks, I know Zach from hanging out in Delco. I'm sorry. Am I saying? I think I'm saying that with the accent. Anyways, I'm just like, but I would hang out at the Old State, and it would be Jim and Tom Curtis, and those guys
Yeah.
would come through. It would just, they're so, and again, this is 4 or 5 years ago. You see where they're at now, but even
Right.
at that time, they were, because, okay, I'm sorry. Let me just back it up real quick for you, because I apologize. I have to give you the background.
Right.
My brother is a serious musician. He always has been, since he was 14. My dad
Uh
has been playing guitar for 35 years. Um, he would freely admit that both of us are better than him now, even though he's been doing it for 35 years.
huh.
'Cause that's why you want to have kids, right? So they can surpass you.
Right.
But the point is that there was definitely everybody in the house eventually played music. I was the last one. I actually thought that I couldn't sit still long enough. but then, we had a bar called Bridget's in Fairmount. It was right by the art museum,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother had an incredible open mic there, and that's where I got my start. I was like, I have learned how to play piano. Well, I've learned how to sing, and we own this building, so nobody can kick me out. So it was great. It was like that was a good place to start. So I wanted to clarify that with you, is that I had a home cooking experience for the where I got my start, because
Uh-huh.
I found that was really great. It was like, and sometimes I did screw up, and sometimes they let me have it. But then since then I didn't really do too much till I started doing this stuff with Zach and
Right.
you.
And I think Zach's watching. So shout out to Zach Chat for watching. He was on the one of our episodes in the first season. I think he was on the concluding episode of the season one. So if you guys want to go back and check that out, and it was a good time talking to Zach. Always fun time chatting with him. And you and him run the casual Wednesday night live stream, and talk a little bit more about how that kind of got started. I know Zach gave a little bit of a background, but I want to hear your interpretation, Chris.
Well, this is the real story of why I'm here today, is because I really like when Zach started releasing music. I only knew him just as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and like we all know this, right? We're not haters out here, but like if your friend posts something on Facebook that they just published, and if you're just random friend from wherever in life, and they're just like, check out my new song, and it's like you expect it to be about maybe 14 seconds long, and it's someone hitting a Casio, you know what I mean? But then like
Yeah.
but I know Zach is serious, or I didn't know really, but then when he sent me his links to his SoundCloud, and he sent me wingless links, and I was like, I clicked
Right.
it, and I was, holy shit! So this kid who I've known for all this time, I haven't really heard any of his music, because he's humble about it. He
Uh
doesn't
huh.
throw his stuff around. But I was like, what the? My first thought was, my first thought was like, you sound like Tyrannosaurus Rex pre T Rex, and then like he's like, thanks, but I was like, whoa. So I got that vibe from him. Like I was just like, you can just be some guy, just
Yeah.
messing around with stuff, but it can be amazing. And so like basically, I'm like, why not me? So I eventually I saw people doing all this decom stuff, and I actually sat down and I think I started doing like stuff that I do in karaoke and just
Hmm.
fumbling the keyboard.
Yeah.
But I could do like a wicked game, something like that. And like people would like the people were rapturously engaged, and they were just like, "Damn, you're so good!" I'm like, I'm choking on my like I'm there. I could. This is my first time playing live in 5 years, and they're just like, "Woo!" So anyway,
Yeah.
not to put too fine a point on that, just that's how I got involved in the group, and then Zach and I started vibing with different things that we're working
Hmm.
on together almost every day. It
Right.
just so happens we might have maybe the same sleep cycle despite the time zone. And I'm just like, so actually, wait, are we just always in? Are we working on something? And he's like, yeah. Why don't you come on my podcast with me and be a guest? And then at the end of the, I'm sorry, I had to giggle about this because it's just like you don't people things like this doesn't. Zach is a very special person. Like he makes things happen for people. So he was like, guess what? That wasn't a guest spot. That was an audition. I wanted you as a co-host. Would you like to be my co-host? So this all happened in the space of literally 2 days improvisationally. And I was just like,
That's awesome.
thank you. Somebody challenged me with something that I want to do. And you said I did a good job and you want me on team. Like,
That's
and so
awesome.
that's the vibes that Zach brings to the table. He seriously, if you're not friends with Zach and you don't share your stuff with Zach and you don't talk to him about what he can do for you professionally or personally, check them out. Am I right, Anthony?
Yeah. I mean, we all need a Zach Chap in our lives.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what but no, I really took to it, Anthony, and I've really enjoyed sort of just extemporaneously talking about stuff with people live, like reading the comments from Bobby and Shane and Carl Park and all these guys. I'm sure that these are really cool people, and like they're
Yeah.
sort of obscure, and it's taken all these obscure cool people and putting them all in proximity to each other, and that's why I think it's such an important thing, you know. Not to just be
Absolutely.
all about decom, and it's not just, oh, this is not a decom ad. That's where I came from. And if you like what I do, it's only because of Zach and because of decom. That's it.
Right. And for anybody watching later in the show, when we're referencing to DCOM, we're talking about the Delco Quarantine Open Mic Facebook page that kind of blew up, last year in the beginning of the pandemic, and a lot of people in the music industry, obviously, we've known that lost a lot of their gigs and everything, and there was a group of people that said, hey, let's just start a virtual open mic, and one thing led to another, and I think they're about 16,000 members strong in that, and it's still getting a lot of activity until this day, and that's awesome to see. I mean, even in the first couple months, when I was doing a lot of live streams, there was almost like 10, 20 people watching you every single open mic, and it was like it was the same people, but even you would get a good amount of new people watching you too. And even till this day, I see you guys run the casual open mic before your live streams, and every week there's usually a full spread of
Full
people,
slate.
and
Yeah.
and that's awesome that people are still active on the Facebook group page over there, because after a while some groups lose their momentum and they try to keep the momentum, and then especially with things that are opening now, I would like to hope that the Facebook group continues to thrive once things are still going. And I know there have been some open mics that are linking to the Delco Quarantine open mic, and they're broadcasting them through that page. So now that everything's opening, they're still keeping the vibes going, and it's awesome to kind of see the new transition on how to keep that thing going. And it's really fun to see the community and a lot of the people that we've come across, just like I got a lot of my guests from the Delco Quarantine open mic, and I mean, I've known Frank Biscotti and Tom Curtis for a long, long time, and going through my band days, so I've always kept in contact with them. And I've met a lot of networking people and a lot of musicians that I talk to now because of the Delco Quarantine Open Mic. And I'm really looking forward to down the line in these couple months, hopefully going to a lot of these open mics in the local area, and actually getting to meet a lot of these people in person officially. So that's gonna be really cool. And hopefully Chris can schedule some time to come back over on the East Coast, and we can do some hanging out sessions there too.
It's become difficult, my friend. It really has. I'm just like,
Yeah,
gosh, like but that's the other thing is that like I know that my time will come, and
absolutely.
the way that our programs are working these days, like the amount of time we schedule for ourselves and the amount that we collaborate. I'm not just talking about me and Zach, but all of us. Like I'm always in contact with Shane. I'm always talking to Bobby. Like they're always
Right.
watching my stuff, and it's just like you end up doing 2 sets a week. And like you practice for a couple hours, you play for a half an hour, and you just see how it starts to add up. You know what I mean? Like it's like you cannot deny. Like I think Zach told me something today. Actually, we were talking, and he was just like, if you look at like when I first sat down there, and now that the way that I present myself, there's something to be said. Like here, oh wait, I have to quote Kevin. You know Kevin Curran, Kevin James Curran, but
I think I have seen him on the open mic lists and everything. I haven't caught any of his sets yet, but I do know
oh,
the name.
oh my God, so he's been leveling up hard. He's just putting out an album soon too. I'm going to shout it out for him. I believe it's called Culture and Western,
Nice.
actually. So, but Kevin said something. I was watching his. It was sparsely attended the day after July 4th. Who would have thought, or whatever, the day. Like, so we didn't have a big list. We had a full list the week before,
Right.
and we had a very sparse list for this one. That's why I decided to go for an hour last night.
Yeah, I was watching you last night during the live stream. I'm like, oh, I guess they're just he's just going to do an extended set if they're going to do the casual tonight. So it was cool to.
Oh, but wait, I had to get to the Kevin part. I'm sorry, because he was one of the few people who played, but he played an incredible fucking set, and you really have to watch it. I'm not even kidding. Like he's dripping excellence,
Hmm.
and but he was like, "I'm so happy this exists," and I'm paraphrasing, but I usually have a pretty good eidetic memory, so I might be saying the exact words. He's like, "I'm really glad this exists because I'm a homebody. I go out about 2 times a week these days, and I don't have to think about going out in order to work on my craft.
Right.
So thank you guys for the opportunity to work on my craft. And if that's an exact quote, don't hate me. It's just like there's a hashtag autism. It's just how our brains work. But anyway, I'm just saying like I literally
Mm.
remember him saying that, and I'm like, dude, that solves the problem. Like I'm like, why do I love this so much, and why is this so valuable to me? It's because of that. It's because it's just like you really don't have to put any effort in to have an audience to go out, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, hey, guess what? You don't have to worry about drinking and driving, any of that kind of shit. You can just turn
Yeah.
your thing. So it's
Absolutely.
really valuable to a lot of people, even after the pandemic. That's why I brought all that up. Even after the pandemic, it will persist for those reasons,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. Because even before the pandemic, I was live streaming a lot of my gigs, so I was still pretty prone to doing virtual streams in as such that I was doing virtual streams, but I was doing them in a live setting. I wasn't like shooting them from my basement up until everything shut down, and I'm like, well, I already do virtual stuff anyway, so we still have our live streams. So now it's just going to be from our house, and I was just really getting into the OBS stuff, and I was just I had an interface, and like I put two and two together. I'm like, well, I can stick my vocals and my guitar right through there, and it's a USB. It can go right through my interface because I've already been recording and stuff. And I'm like, well, let me see if I can, rig that right through OBS. And, my first couple streams were like, really all over the place because I was still trying to hone my craft with it. But after a couple, shows and doing this and doing that, and up until, doing this show, I've definitely, like you were saying, even though with everything that's been going on, it's kind of helped us to, step back and be able to hone our crafts even more so that, hopefully with a lot of musicians that are coming out of this, they're going to be 10 times even better and ready for when they go out and start playing shows again. Like, because, you have people that may have, said, hey, I mean, I've been playing the same cover songs for the last 3-4 years. I'm ready to, I have the time now. Let me just, learn a whole, if not a whole 3-4 hour set, maybe learn a whole, new half hour set for my first set, and then at least start bringing that in. So then at least you can say that you've been, you said, okay, well, I've learned 50 new songs out of this thing. That's at least some type of progress. Or for me, I've really been into honing in on my video production craft and recording, getting my recording skills
Right.
in. So
It's not even like you just have to play songs, right? It's like there's so many other things you can even do to like support other people. Like
yeah,
if you feel a little bit shy about performing yourself, if you have a brother or a sister or something who is doing this kind of thing, you can learn to do their kind of OBS stuff. Like
yeah,
it's there's so like and think about how much money is going to be made about off of this stuff in the future. And you're in the vanguard, like you know more about this than most people do, and it hasn't even really hit yet, right? That's how
yeah.
I feel
And
about what
I
you
feel
do.
just looking at a lot of my stuff from last year, it's like what I know now, it's like, it's progress, so you got to think of it as progress to know that, you start at one point, and yeah, it may not be the best looking or best sounding product, but after a while you start thinking, okay, cause and effect, this goes into that goes into this, and then you're like, okay, well, this is starting to work now. You upgrade your stuff, and now you start sounding a little bit better, and then bam, you look about 12 months later, you're like, wow, I've really come a long way with it.
Anthony, I just got to say that Zach is pumping his fist right this right in the camera. He's like, because like that's what we do. Because you know what, people have been bored too. That's the thing is like people like some people have been unemployed. I'm not going to shout out anybody in particular.
Right,
Some
right,
people
but yeah, yeah,
some people have been bored. People need something to occupy their time, especially people that have ADHD like I do. You know what I mean? Like, I really need a project. I have to. It's
yeah,
same thing with my dog. I know we talked about him yesterday, but I'm saying my dog is like a herding dog. So you got to give him puzzles and stuff to do for throughout the day, or else he's going to sit there and be like,
yeah,
"Come on, I can't sit still, bro." And that's like how I feel. Like I want to get engaged in something and have hours go by without me even blinking.
right.
So to speak.
I
And that's
mean,
just kind of how this stuff works, right? It's like you get into like a problem and you're like, shoot, I better go to sleep, but
but
you know
you're
what
in
you know.
you're in the moment, and you're just like, okay, when I'm in the moment, I'm like, I don't, not that you necessarily want to sleep because you're eventually going to, but you're like, you're in that moment, and you're like, okay, this is like, you finally get that light bulb, and everything's working, and you're like, wow, this is cool, and I
Talking to you from that place right now, by the way, guys. I feel like I have my zero latency uh, Osteo shit going correctly, and I hope it's all matched up, and I hope everybody is enjoying it. The audio experience at the Cobwebs has been improving exponentially recently
uh-huh,
because it's actually really hard to make all this stuff work together. But having done so, like we did a little bit of stuff. I did some stuff last night with all of my synths and all of my lap steel and all this stuff like trying to go together,
right,
and it's a work in progress. But I'm saying like the zero latency vocals and effects on them at the same time while you can monitor yourself. It's kind of
yeah,
like that's the through that I was like, can I get that? And now I'm really gonna record like for real, for real.
right, right, yeah, because like I was mentioning, when we were talking before, I was doing a couple studio streams and just streaming a couple, little ideas that I had, and I eventually want to get that out for everybody. So I just gotta, take a couple days to, find some time to really, get some lyrics down and, just dial in a couple little music things. But I'm hoping, the goal would hope to be get something out by the end of this year or the beginning of next year, because I did do a little bit of writing during the quarantine, so I felt that I did do a little bit of writing, so I don't feel that it all went to a waste, along with me recording and doing this show, so I felt that my time that I had downtime, other than being a father, because that was my biggest priority of taking care of my son these last 11 months, but on the music front, I felt that I've tried to continue to try to make content and make it to the point where people don't necessarily forget that I do music, and try to be creative in finding creative ways and to continue making content without actually getting out there in front of people. And I think that's the most uh, biggest thing with musicians, that they had to bring out a lot of their creative sides now, because we couldn't get out in front of people. So what's the next best thing? I mean, we have all this streaming sites with music, but everybody, you see all these ads of like, my song's out today, his song's out today, her song's out today, their song's out today. How do you just filter yourself from the herd of millions and millions of people putting out music every day? And that's where the creative side comes out, to be able to market it yourself. And that's another thing with honing in your crafts of how to be a better marketer and be a better businessman in the musician world these days.
I just wanted to break in. I know that I'm not looking at the feed right now because I want to show you this, but this came free with my PreSonus interface. That I have all this crap, and I want to see if I can just blend it in here real quick because it's just so funny. Hold on. I just need so it's auto tune. Hold on.
Oh, the
Yeah,
auto tune.
I mean it's divisive, but I think it's really fun. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I'll get it.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I'll do my little shtick here. So I want to say thank you everybody for watching Table Talk, who's been tuning in so far tonight. My name is Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life, your host. You're watching the 24th episode of Table Talk. I have my special guest tonight, Chris Ryan, from the Bay Area of San Jose, a Philadelphia, once known Philadelphia musician who's now living on the West Coast, and
Yep.
is also the co-host of the Casual Wednesday late night podcast. And I just want to say to any new people who are watching, feel free to comment, say hi, and if you guys have any questions for us, especially feel free to leave a comment. And if you're watching later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, feel free to leave a review and make sure to subscribe or follow. Feel free to do that and share it with a friend. I love the masses of people who are always sending me good feedback on the show. So it's you guys that continue to make this show fun for me to do every week, and continue to talk it up with musicians like Chris and everybody who has been on the show previously, and just to talk with people that I may have I've had people that I've known and just known for a couple months. So it's cool to kind of see everybody's journey and talk about their journey, because we may know each other through musician purposes, but we may not know our ways of how we got into music. And that's always been the first thing that's inspired me to know, like, how everybody's gotten into music, because everybody somewhat has a similar story, but a different arc as well, too. So it's been cool to kind of know everybody's ways of how music came into their life.
Agree. Anyway, no big deal.
It almost sounds like you're losing your audio, but it's actually auto-tune that he's on.
No, it was. I was just. I was trying to do the one that sounds like The Weeknd, but I forgot which one it was. But it's just so funny to have all that crazy, like, super thousands of dollars production stuff in your lap. Like, you can do subscriptions by day, like month by month, and it's like, so something like that. Like, I usually wouldn't buy autotune, but if it costs me $25 a month, and every once in a while I just want to do a rap track, like, I might
Right.
actually do. It's kind of cool the way, like, they make that stuff available. Like, remember back in the day when you really had to pay out the for
Yeah.
every thing that you want. I always found a way. Sorry, but I'm saying that, like,
I mean, we've all had those type of ways. Like, oh, if I want it, you're gonna pirate it some way. So that was like our come
you
up
did
is
say
like,
that word. I
if
didn't
you didn't want to pay for it, you found some way to pirate things. And there's still
well,
ways you can pirate things.
that was true, but and definitely the what is it called? I'm just saying I basically, it was SoulSeek. SoulSeek used to be the way, by the way. But I'm saying, but now these days you can actually do the 3-month trial sometimes for some of this stuff, and it can be worth it. It can be really fun to have these really, like, I really do want Omnisphere. You know what I mean? If they give me like a $40 a month trial or something like that, I'm going. I might make an album in that 3 months. Sorry,
Yeah, man.
I'm going off software, but I really think that the trial model and the sort of monthly subscription model as a barrier to entry, like, taking the barrier to entry down a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm.
You might think, oh, I don't need any of this kind of stuff, but I promise you, if you have used the entire autotune suite and you just want to make like a weekend song and you can literally do it, It's really fun. Okay, so like I'm just saying, look, take advantage of your free trials, install the stuff, work with
Yeah.
it, fun. It'll teach you something. Whatever. That's my proselytization for the day.
And even in this day and age, the plugins and different amp sims and stuff, the quality of these things are just amazing these days. That I feel, still it's never going to necessarily replace a traditional amp, but they're getting pretty damn close to mimicking the actual, I mean, the sounds, but like the little tweaks that you get from a real amp. And when you're doing your amp sims, I think there's still like has that like 10% that they're missing. And I've heard like John Mayer talk about those things with like amp sims, that he's like, I like a lot of amp sims, but they're missing that like 10% that you cannot get from a traditional amp. And I think that's more of like that roll off, and when traditional amps are like kind of on that breaking point to the amp tubes like breaking. I think the amp sims are not really, some of them probably do a better justice with it than others, but they're still in that craft of getting that dialed in, and I think they're just there. But I gotta say that there are some pretty cool amplifiers that I wish I can officially own, but I own through an amp sim. So it's like you kind of own them, but you don't own them. But it's cool to kind of be able to still experiment with those things. So if you ever really wanted to just experience, hey, I want to know what this amp is before I want to buy it, you can always just go with the amp sim and like just do a free download of something and just mess with it for a couple hours. And if you like it, cool. You can actually, if you have the money, go for it.
I got to tell you about the situation my brother found himself in recently. So, um, he was a bartender, bar manager, and obviously COVID kind of forced him to seek other places. So when a music shop that repairs and sells used instruments opened up a job,
Mm-hmm.
he went into that job, and he didn't realize the side benefit of that job was going to be that he could just kind of buy and sell at cost any piece of inventory in that store. So he's been cycling through. He bought a bassman, like a pre-CVS bassman, or bassman. I'm sorry, I think it's a bassman, but it's
Right.
like but it's an incredible head. And then he found this Marshall cabinet, like a
Mm-hmm.
greeny Marshall cabinet or something, and he showed me. Kevin might be watching right now. I'm not sure because I'm not following, but I'm saying I think he said he was out to dinner. He'll probably watch later. But
Mm-hmm.
Kevin is he actually demoed this, like he went through a bunch of different cabinets and stuff, and he was like, I don't want this one. I'll take this back to work, switch it for this one. You know what I mean? It's like it's
Right.
literally so it's like you might not be making that much working a cashier and selling instruments at an instrument store, but you get something that's worth an invaluable amount of money, which is to make your perfect rig without buying
Yeah.
and selling without losing money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like
Absolutely.
so I was watching him cycle through stuff, and he's like, nah, not this one. Nah, not this one. He's like, oh my god, I'm here. And when you
Right.
hear it, it's very trebly. It's like we really like the zombies and stuff like that. We always we like a lot of psych rock in that house,
Uh
and he's got the psych rock rig now, and
huh.
it's all MIDI controlled too, so he can MIDI switch like all the different
Right.
parameters on the pedal board. I mean, if you guys haven't seen stuff like this, get into it. It's crazy.
That's
MIDI
awesome.
switching your entire pedal setup. I never saw that before. I'm just like, congrats. Shout out to Kevin
Yeah,
if you're
man.
out there.
So you're a big Willie Nelson fan. Are there any other musical influences that you have?
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, so hold on a sec. Let me just see. All right, I was just making sure I had my settings the same as I did before. I don't want to mess you up. So I've got I'm a really like I've gotten to the point sometimes where I feel like I am Towns Van Zant. I don't know if you're a big Towns guy, but like he's like, like so Graham Parsons and Towns Van Zant since I was about 18, 19 years old, you know, coming straight off of Jack Kerouac and all that stuff, and you can kind of romantically involve yourself with the same kind of stuff, but then you can't understand Towns Van Zandt
Right.
properly until you're in your 30s. Like there ain't no way. Like but then but I'm just saying like
Mm-hmm.
since I've been listening to, and I'm also this dude apparently is canceled by a lot of people, but like I always really wanted to be a poet like in the style of Ryan Adams. I really
Mm,
like his style of folk and country, just very elegiac, beautiful poetry. Just it'll jerk your tears out of you, even if you don't. Even if you don't like country music, if you listen to what he's saying, you're like, "Damn, that reminds me of my grandma." You know what I
mm.
mean? Like he's really good. So that's what I'm trying to go for. I'm trying to go for sort of like an old school throwback psychedelic folk country.
Gotcha.
That's most of the cobwebs.
Gotcha.
There's a lot more to it, but that's the basis.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, when I always think of like folk and country, I always think of like the I guess you can kind of say the word troubadour in these two names, Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash. You know, uh, I didn't really get the chance to uh, be mostly inspired by those two. I guess a little bit of Bob Dylan since I am inspired by Jimi Hendrix. So I did have a little bit of a Bob Dylan, experience since he always referenced Bob Dylan being one of his biggest influences. That's always like, okay, well, I got to check out Bob Dylan. And, that can always give you, the background to Jimmy's, genius and genius mind that even he had, people that he looked up to and with how great he was, and that's something that I always think like the greatest people that you think that play their instrument well, they look up to people that are just as good as them, and it's it's awesome to see other musicians that give such praise to other great musicians and saying like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here, or if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have wrote this song, or in these type of ways. So it's cool to see influences of bigger musicians of two and multiple great musicians who just love each other's music, and even if they don't get to collab with each other, they just appreciate each other's music for what it is.
You know what? It just occurs to me. I just feel so bad by not having mentioned the real influence. We can wait till later if you want, but I could also, if you want, it's pretty quick. I could back it up with the other main influence. Is just like I remember just being in college and sort of starting to get into the sort of psychedelic lifestyle in certain ways that you don't necessarily have to say on camera, but also just spiritually just being like, I don't need my old personality, I need to know like the ancient wisdom, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you hear My Morning Jacket, the Tennessee Fire. It's simply like it's kind of an obscure album because My Morning Jacket is a popular band. They became kind of more like a U2 style pop arena rock band. But at first, they were recording with very similar technology to what we have, I think. And the reverb was an actual grain silo.
Yeah.
And like they had, but his, I said it last night when I was playing the song. I did a set after we did our little, our run, or not our little, we did our Patreon content last night.
Uh-huh.
But I said that the Jim James sort of My Morning Jacket idea is that you can make beautiful art out of your existential torment. That if you're stuck in Louisville and people aren't treating you the way that you want to be, and it's like a small town kind of feel, and you're tired and lonely or whatever, that you can convert that into gold, pure gold. All
Right.
you need is a silo and an Apple laptop. Like that's so he sort of his DIY aesthetic back then. It kind of infected me, and it took a long time to take over my body, but now I'm fully here. So
Yeah, there you go. And it's cool to kind of have that deep connection with other people to kind of inspire you to write. And I know you were mentioning that you haven't really released a lot of original music, but you're in the process of kind of putting together some tunes. And where's the process going with that?
well, So I've got. I was planning on perhaps debuting songs tonight, but I've got this problem where I don't play acoustic guitar, and a lot of my music requires acoustic guitar. So I keep telling people if you're willing to help me with my problem, but we haven't quite gotten it right yet. But I have like but I can tell you what we're going to be doing. It's the Cobwebs first EP. I believe it's going to be called Huero,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they call me on the construction site. It was like me and 99 Mexican guys. We all got along. But if they needed me, they just yelled, "Güero!" I mean, I'm like, "Yo, whitey." You know what I mean? So I was the lowest ranking guy because I was brand new to Cali. So I had to run around and bring him coffee and all that stuff. So it was, "Güero." So it's like, the cover picture we know that is like me in this construction garb with like mud all over my face, smoking a cigarette, just being like, "Oh Lord." But like, that was sort of all the
Yeah.
stuff was kind of during that period where I was busting my ass doing labor and sort of just like very existentialist, stuff. But I'm also, I'm not only a doomer, like a depressing music merchant. Like I have lots of other stuff to put on this album. But
Right.
what we're working on first is it's called the single that we're doing really good things on, Zach and I and others. It's called, and stay with me on this one, all right? It's called Gnolthi Selton, which is the motto of Athens. Ancient Athens, it means know yourself.
Hmm.
So it's basically like it's the idea of like people have known that your journey toward knowledge is to examine yourself. It's more important than to make statements about the rest of the world. You better know yourself first, right?
Right.
So the song is pretty much about it's. I'll give you a little. I'll give you the first bar if you want.
Sure.
It's just like Northeast Southtown. That's what you'll have when everything else is gone. So it goes like that. I can't
Nice.
really do the whole song yet because I just need that banging acoustic guitar in the background, but we're working on it. So the next time that but it's basically the whole Cobwebs album is going to be that song is the basis of it all. It's being like this is what we're trying to do, but
Hmm.
then there's going to be some electronic music on there, maybe the interludes. There's going to be some covers, and then there's going to be some I would say maybe 6 songs total, and there's going to be some stuff, maybe at least one song in Spanish and one in Portuguese. So
Nice.
setting quite a weird bar for my first EP, but that's my
Yeah,
right,
man.
and that's what I want to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I tried to take Spanish when I was in high school, but I just related to the point where I can only say like hi and bye. I had a Korean teacher trying to teach me Spanish, and he spoke a lot better Spanish than I did English.
That's I had that experience one time. I was in Spain, and I was a chaperone for a student trip with my cousin, and we lost some students. And the only people we found who could help us get home were from Beijing. They spoke fluent Spanish, and we're just like, I speak pretty darn good Spanish, but when it comes to like a city I'd just been in for 2 days, I was complete. But the Chinese folks, they helped us out. They were like, yeah, we
Yeah.
learned it in school. It's whatever.
It's like you know it until you have to really use it, and you're like, okay, I have no clue what I'm talking about.
I would challenge you to fool me though. I'm just telling you, like since I worked in the construction site, I learned a lot of vocabulary that I didn't learn in school, and now I'm good.
That's what they always say. When it's trying to do a language, other than if you're in like your for they always say like babies are good to like teach new languages because their mind is like a sponge, so you can teach them almost anything, and they're gonna hold it to that point. But when it comes to like when you're a lot older, they say if you really want to learn a language, go to the actual native land where they speak, and you'll get taught a lot of things that you won't be taught in like the classrooms because they're speaking like the actual language. You get to hear the different types of slang and ways that they actually speak it. So that's like your actual, if you really want to learn something and take it all in, that's the best way to learn.
And it's just one. So the reason that I chose that, I forgot to explain that I majored in. I went to college. I'm not a big credentialist. I'm not big into like I got a degree. I don't got a degree. Like most of the stuff I know, I taught myself. But so one thing I
Mm-hmm.
learned in school was the Latin and Greek languages and the
Mm-hmm.
history of ancient Greece and Rome, and that's my theme. That's what I think about. I think about how America is Rome. And I think about how Athens was defeated by Rome, and that Athens still lives, and we got to bring Athens back. The spirit of
Right.
inquiry, discussion. So that's where that's what I come from. That's what my album's going to be about.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just everything I've learned about the world via understanding the ancient world. It's gonna be a great album. I think you're gonna really like it. It's gonna be complicated and it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I think trying to think outside the box with certain concepts instead of always trying to you know write things for what is in the here and now, but writing things that may not be the most trending topics. But I feel because I've always felt with my music, it's like, it may not be, top 10, top 20, top 50, standalone type songs, but it's something that, I've learned that if it's something that I've clicked on that feels good to me, it's eventually going to click on with other people. And, and I'm trying to get to that point now where I'm trying not to be a numbers guy, because especially with social media today, where a lot of musicians are all dead set on if this post doesn't get X amount of likes, then this means nothing, or if this song doesn't get 100,000 streams, I guess that I'm not that good. That when we have to reset our brains to remembering that music does not equal if you just because a song gets 100,000 streams, it means that it's likable to an extent. But there's millions of musicians out there that never get to that level, but there's so much talent that never gets listened to. And that's the thing that a lot of people miss, that there's only so much music that we're what's the word, that we experience every day. But you got to think there's so much more music that we're missing out, that may not be on the major streaming platforms, that may only get to Bandcamp and SoundCloud. There's a lot of people that listen to those, and people that they just post a clip to Facebook or Instagram, and they only get 2 likes, but then you never know, you could just be listening to something great, but it just never gets listened to because, one, they just maybe not have that confidence, or they may not know how to really market it that well. But I'm getting to the point where it's I just want to start writing things mainly for myself, and because I am influenced by so much music daily. There's days where I can listen to something soft, then I can listen to something heavy, and then something more atmospheric. So I get inspired by so many different ideas, and I think that's where I'm at right now. I have so many different things that I'm on, and these things don't necessarily all sound in the same genre, but I feel that's just my creativity, the fact that I can write different types of genres. And it's better than just okay, I want to stick to just one type of genre. But I mean, I'm influenced by so many different, so it's I feel it's cool to kind of be able to say, okay, well, I just wrote a blues rock song, and then this time I was listening to this type of music, and I wanted to write something here, so I think I'm going to put something out there. So I've been really also getting into the fact of putting out singles more than really worrying about EPs and albums. And because we're in the day and age of singles, and the 60-second awareness of things. If people are not tuned in and within 60 seconds, you're not even going to be fought. So it's trying to always change up your tactics, but then still trying to keep yourself grounded to the point where if one thing doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you failed. You just got to keep going. As long as you can continue to love what you're doing, and if in your mind that what you're writing is good, if you like what you're writing, somebody else is going to connect with it eventually. You just got to keep on doing it, because music is about expression. It's not about, getting 1,000 likes every day. So
I wanted to tell you what I think about that is that I used to be, I think that you had mentioned that you were at one point a shy person. Mm-hmm. And the bigger audience that I had to work in front of when I was first trying, before I learned how to, again, this revolution, really revolutionized things for me to be able to play without an audience. Because I just want to throw this out there. I'm a person on the autism spectrum, and I have a very extreme sensitivity to noise and stuff like that. So when I would hear people start talking and stuff like that, if they got bored with my first 30 seconds, and I would start flooding hard, and just I'd have to get through it. Yeah. And it wasn't great. But I'm just saying that basically just as a shy person, as an autistic person, originally, I wouldn't say that I'm cured, but I would say that I've basically fought through most of the symptoms. But I just remember it just being a very serious problem to have this audience and to try to simulate what the audience might be thinking,
Yeah,
you know. And
I get
so
like
having
that
a,
too.
it was very interesting to me to reintegrate with an audience through decom, and it was such a nice audience. So
Hmm.
now I have a good model of an audience because sometimes, like when we were playing, there was too many people there. There's like 50 people watching you, and you're brand new. You're just like, what? Hold
And
on
it's
a
kind of hard, especially when you're having, like 10 different comments coming in, like bam 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 bam, and you're trying to be like playing, but you want to, not think you're not trying to be interactive with people. So it's like your mind's thinking so many things outside of making sure you're playing the song right. And I think that's where being playing shows and doing the live streams and stuff, I've learned to kind of just, when I'm playing music, worry about my song, and then have the times where, if I can check the chat, in between a song, kind of just scroll, see if there's anything that I need to address, or if there's somebody that pops on, I'm like, oh, hey, you heard, but, and if that, I always try to get back to them after the gig, and I'll just, respond to a lot of things after. And I think that's been a little bit better for me. But like what you were saying about, the shyness, and it took me a while to kind of even, build up the confidence to really, be a leader in a conversation. I still think I'm, not 100% the best, but I think, and I've always been saying the last couple times that this show has definitely, made that weakness a better strength of mine to, learn that how to carry a conversation, and instead of being like, oh well, what else do you want to talk about, we have like an hour and a half, I don't know what else to do. Help me,
Listen,
help me, this
no,
is my show,
no
you
doubt
need to
about
help me.
Anthony, I can tell you that at this point, you really do not need to even mention that anymore. And I'm not saying that in a critical way. I'm just saying that you make it very easy. Like we did a bunch of content yesterday, and you can tell when you're in good hands when you look at the clock and a half an hour has gone by and you thought it was 5 minutes. I'm just like,
Well,
I'm
I
always,
appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's great when you have a good conversation.
And then the one thing I wanted to clarify about what I had said before, because I've never performed for an audience of 50 people on a stream, only live, raucous, drunk people. What if 50 people were to watch my stream? I would feel so gassed up. I would feel so excited. I would
Yeah.
probably play better than anybody because I'm not really worried about, I can't even really, I'm not looking at the comments like you said. But if 50 people in person kind of gathered around you, or when the pressure is on you and you're not used to it, it can be heartbreaking. Like you can literally feel your heart pounding out of your chest. But
Yeah.
in this format, I rarely feel that way. And even if a lot of people join, I'm just like, okay, great, and
And
I hope it's more next time.
yeah, and I've read a lot of things that, they say it's better when you're having streams that only maybe five or less people are watching, because you can still take that as like a practice session to hone in everything and be ready for those times where, especially on like Twitch, if you get a rate of like 200 people, and you're not used to that, at least if you've done a good amount of streams where you're kind of comfortable with what you're doing and you get a big audience, all of a sudden you know how to interact with that. Because if you're, expecting big audiences and you're not ready for it, then that's when, your big chance comes and it just gets missed because you're not prepared for it. So I mean,
Now,
even I get to the point sometimes where I'm like, well, there's only been like X amount of people, so it's like, did I really just waste my hour and a half? But no, I mean, you take it as you take it as practice, and there's gonna be that time where, and I've had those times where I thought, well, I'll go on. It's probably not going to have a lot of people. And then I have like a boost of a lot of people. And I'm like, oh, well, this is a great night. I had, and then especially on this show, I've had times where, it's just to the point where there's a couple people watching and it's just been like me and the guest talking and we have our conversations. And then there's nights where I'm doing like multiple things. I have people, in the comments and they want to be chatting with us. I'm trying to keep a conversation with the guest. And then I'm like, all right, well, this is like fire tonight. I'm trying to make sure that I'm making sure the whole script of the show's going good. So and then because when you have that time, you're prepared for it. And then you kind of know how to, be that producer, because we do all these things, we do all these live shows by ourselves. Not all the time we have a producer on the other end saying like, okay, well, you got this coming in, and they're saying this. Like, no, we're especially for me, I'm looking at comments, I'm looking at you, trying to keep a conversation going. I'm making sure that I had all my shares going, so it's like, not it's not just a one track mind sometimes.
I think that it's never a waste, like you said, and it becomes very clear over the course of 3 months or 6 months,
Yeah.
or especially I think I might be getting up maybe close to 9 months, and you just look at yourself from those intervals before, and you see how much better you are at what you're doing than what you were before. It's never a
Absolutely.
waste. I've seen a lot of people throw fits about not being watched enough. That is silly. It's absolutely silly. It needs to stop, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Everything is good. Everything you get, they're going to watch it the next day when they wake up and have coffee, and they're going to give you a comment and be like, "I'm having coffee and listening to your stuff." So I
I
always,
get the
always
amount of replays you get is really good, because sometimes there's times where you may not get a lot during the lives, and like you said, but you'll get almost double the replays, and like you might, like your live stream might only get like maybe 50 to 100 views one time during the live, and you check and you're like, oh, well, only 100 people watched. What the hell? I thought there was gonna be a lot more, but then you check it 2 3 days later, it's at 500. Like, where all these people come from? Because there's 9 times out of 10, a lot of people watch replays, and then that's where they discover a lot of things too.
so I've seen you've been playing out at bars again.
Yes, I
What's the
have.
big? Yeah, I saw you playing. Mostly covers. You did some originals too, right? But it's like, do they sort of most of the time when you play at a bar, they sort of ask you to play to the crowd? I know that Zach was saying he was doing some originals when he started playing again. He would do an original, and if people started to drift, then he'd go with the covers for a little bit, and then stick the
Yeah,
original in.
I mean, the places that I play, it's usually 80-20 that I do. Every once in a while, I'll I'll throw an original out there. Uh, and sometimes it'll just be covers all night, and I'll forget to play an original because I just get so set into playing the covers that I can't wait to play, that I totally forget. Oh, I have original music that I can just throw this in there too. So, yeah, so lately, when I've been playing up in Royersford the last couple months, I've just been playing strictly cover music. I haven't really done too much original music up there, so I definitely want to try to, throw those a couple of the originals in there for my next time I'm up there. Because I definitely have to, throw a couple of my newer stuff in there, and hopefully I can, try to start putting out some newer music in the future and start throwing that up there too. Because when I started playing my recent single, I was playing that at my shows and kind of just testing that out in the live looping setting before I really got it into recording it. And so it just went into the testing field of being able to feel it out with the crowds, and then once I was doing that, then started recording it. So I mean, I do a lot of original music here and there, but lately in my past couple shows, I've just been really just doing a lot more covered songs, because I started learning a couple new ones, so it's more of like they're fresh in my mind, and I'm like, okay, I can't wait to play these certain ones because I haven't played them in that many times to be like, okay, I can't even play this one anymore because I've played it numerous amount of times that I don't even feel like
Yeah.
playing it anymore.
Oh, that's a good point. I had to remember to talk to you about that in next time before I play a song. But wait, I wanted to ask you this. It was really it's very to me um, the idea that it just occurred to me while you were saying that, because again, I'm not a person who has played really any original songs for the public.
Mm-hmm.
The theoretical amount of anxiety that I would induce is enough to like anime explode me off the planet.
It
So,
can
but
be intimidating. It can be intimidating because, especially in a bar setting, because people are not there to hear your originals. But I've learned to, play a couple covers, and
mhm.
then not even just say, hey, I'm about to play an original. I just start playing it. And then,
That's dude. And then you know what? People have asked me if the songs that I'm playing are originals, and I'm like, well, if I have you hooked, like if I have you fooled like that, then I must be.
there you go.
But I was going
Yeah.
to say that you just gave me this key actually while you were talking about that, and from Zach too, is that first couple of times when you get to meet a new crowd, right? You get them to like you get them to know you,
Yeah.
right? You charm them a little bit. You get them under your thumb, And then start hitting them with the originals and blend them in with the others. And they were like, "What's that one you said?" I did this to Tom Curtis actually. I was like, "Tom, what's that, like an Irish standard song that you played?" And he's like, "No, that's one of my old songs." It was. Do you know
Uh-huh.
the song "Stand Right Next to You" by Tom Curtis?
I think so, yeah.
It's a really good. It sounds. It's like kind of Pogues ish. You know, it just kind of has that like really.
Uh-huh.
I'm my family's Irish too, so you can see my
Right.
last name. So like I was just like rocking to it, and I was like, "Tom, what is that song you played? Is it an Irish song?" He's like, "No, I wrote that a long time ago." I'm like, "Darn it, Tom Curtis, darn it! Why you got to stun on me like that?"
Yeah, and a lot of us, we've been playing a lot of our older tunes for many years, and I know Tom has been putting out a couple new songs over the last couple months, and Frank Biscotti, he's been playing his EP that I think he put out a couple years ago, and he's been still playing a couple of those songs. And I love a couple. I love a decent amount of those songs that he plays from that EP, and it's cool to kind of see how those songs have been, progressing, and people are catching on to those, and especially in my sense too. I put out a lot of my music starting in 2012, and I've been just playing them out, and I'll still get people every once in a while, even with my old tunes compared to my most recent stuff, that people still, when they listen to it either online or when I'm playing it out, like you said, there will be people that come up to me and say, "Wow, that was a really cool song you played." And like, was that a cover? Or did you write that? And then when I actually tell them that yeah, it's actually one of my originals, they're like, "Wow, like where can I get it?"
Right.
Or so that's where
And
you
so
kind of hook them on. And then I even feel like
what's
with
it feel like? Tell me
yeah,
what it feels like.
it's great. It is a good feeling because also I've had people that come up to me and say that I was like, I've had that time where people have come up to me and said, "Hey, I was going through a rough time, and this song connects with me." And I like thank you for having this song, because I play this on days where I'm having my bad days, and this kind of and when writing that certain song that this person was talking about it, I had no intentions of having people come up to me like that. It was a song that kind of came out of, and I had co-produced it with a friend of mine, and with no intentions of kind of having that type of reaction with people. And it was more of just a song talking about uh, being able to know that you're not alone, and that there's always positives in a negative situation. So whenever you're feeling like you're down or there's no hope, keep going. There's always something to live for, and there's because especially a lot of my music is always about positivity, hope, and love. So I always try to hone that into a lot of my writing, and keeping people's spirits up, keeping a positive lifestyle. Even the most positive lifestyles can, we have our negative moments, but I was just listening to a podcast, and this is going on a tangent, but I was just listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about the same thing that I've always told people, that your mindset is the biggest thing when it comes to living a positive mindset, because there's a lot of people that they think a lot of negative thoughts, and eventually you keep thinking negative thoughts, you're gonna be thinking negative all the time. But if you continue to think positive, and put more positive energy into your body, you're eventually going to switch that into a positive lifestyle. And it's not, it's not always just like, "Hey, you did a good job today," but it's not just that type of critical thinking. It's just more of like, trying to find the positives out of certain situations, and knowing that, yeah, you're not the only one that's struggling. There's always somebody that can help you out, and you're never alone in this world, and there's always somebody that can be there to help you out. And I know with people that struggle, it can be very one dimensional, and you think that there's nothing out there, and it's hard being in that moment. But I think we're doing a great job in this day and age of making more awareness of people that are in those type of mental states, that they think that there's no help out there. But I think we're doing a really good job with trying to help these people out, and knowing that they're not alone, and there is help out there, and that it's not something that needs to be taken lightly. That there are people out there that truly do need help, and I think some people necessarily don't always understand it. They just think, oh well, they're just having a bad day. Just tell them just to get out of that rut. It's just not that easy. Sometimes it's just not that easy for people. But I'm if my music can touch those people in that type of sense, and make them think in a positive way, then I've done my job.
Um, and you know what? It's really interesting because I know that you and I are both positive people when it comes down to it, because of the way we interact with other people and the way that we're regarded. You know what I mean? The way that the DQOM scene works, right? It's just like Um, but I actually really think that a lot of the stuff that I sing and a lot of the stuff that I play. Sorry, can you still hear? You can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I looked like it cut out for a sec. I'm just saying that the way that the music that I play is, it is a lot of it very mournful, but I really feel like mourning things is absolutely like forced positivity is like Len steal my sunshine. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually can write pop music and I will and I do write pop music, but I think it's very interesting. I think that like you're yin and I'm yang when it comes to this kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because I embrace a lot of negativity, and I'm not the kind of person that runs around yelling at people. I don't complain, but I like to absorb a lot of the things that people are going through and sort of think about it as in toto, like being like there are things that you can't be positive about. There are things that have to be regarded as just bad, and like you have to accept things that are bad. And I'm sort of like I felt like a lot of times they used to call that kind of person like a soul or a soul eater, or you know what I mean, like a shaman. It's just like that's what they used to say. One of my favorite podcasters is Michael S. Judge. It's called Death is Just Around the Corner. It's and again, it sounds morbid, but
Mm-hmm.
he's so positive. He's like, a lot of bad things have happened. Human beings are wonderful, right? So that's what I'm saying is I believe that human beings are wonderful, and so do you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to focus on the good, and I'm actually trying to suck up a lot of the bad and put it into my music. I'm trying to
Right.
actually like spin it like cloth. And I'm not even kidding about this. I learned it from Jim James. Like this is what Jim James, when I was telling you that your torment in the world can be spun into gold.
Oh yeah.
That's literally I learned it from Jim James. It's like you experience the bad, experience it, write it down, think about it.
Oh yeah.
Sit
Yeah. There has been a lot of things that take
yeah.
like negative situations and kind of putting it into a song like that, and
I have a great song to illustrate it to you too. Literally, I started fucking God. Excuse me. I swear, Jesus. Oh gosh, I'm doing it again. Okay. I get excited and I swear like a cartoon from the '60s. No, but if you would be ready, I could give you the Jim James song that I'm talking about. Actually.
yeah. Let's do that, and then we will do the spin wheel.
Oh my God, the spin wheel! I forgot, and I love the spin wheel too. Do you want to do that spin wheel first?
Sure. Let's do the spin wheel, and then we'll
Yeah.
get on that. So let's do the spin wheel. So let's get this rigged up. So Chris, let me get you a little introduction to this. So this is the Table Talk spin wheel, and we have three different topics that we have. We have the top five. We have a this or that, and we have a topic question. So what I am going to do is I'm going to spin this wheel, and we will figure out what goes off. So tonight's topic, that's the second time that it's done that. It's always gone to a little bit of like the middle. I think that's a topic question though, if we want to do that.
Seems yeah, it's definitely a topic question. As an Ableton user, I can tell you that's
So
panned to the left.
let's just say that it's the topic question tonight. And as always, I am unprepared, but I think I've had a topic question in here, and I think I've had this before, but I haven't had this. I only did this question with one other person, I believe. So,
Okay.
what is the one thing about being a musician that you love that you continue that makes you continue to do what you do?
Well, I think it's really hard to really see tangible improvement in your status in the world, especially when you're from the East Coast like we are. We're kind of from a disadvantaged area. If you look around the world, like, in Philadelphia, they don't pay you enough for what you do ever, nor in Delco, nor anywhere around there unless you are really lucky. And if you're really lucky, then I ain't talking to you. So I'm saying, like, like there's a lot of that going on. And so when you do stuff like this, you become very aware of yourself improving your situation. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've
Right.
been making less than $40,000 a year for over 20 years of my life, doing various things, some of which I liked, some of which I hated. But I know that I love doing this, and I
Mm-hmm.
get better every time I do it. So that's why I'm trying to just carve out as much of time as I can in my day to do the thing that I love doing,
Yeah.
because I know I'm getting better and better. And one of these days I'm going to explode. And you're not even kidding. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like Zach and I were talking about it today. It's like this stuff that we're working on right now. We're working on a Bowie Rock and Roll Suicide cover, and we're popping off. Like, we're getting to the point where it's just like, it just sounds so cool already. And it's just like, we're just like, we have this much power in our hands. Are you kidding me? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a long answer, but that is like, being a musician is an actualization thing that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make money in a job and trying to, like, flatter your way to the top of a job, that's a very risky proposition. Being a musician, if you have any talent, it's no risk. Every 3 months you're going to be better.
Yeah.
If you keep working. So that's why
Right.
it's just like, for me, cost benefit analysis is like, what should I be doing with my time? I always feel better when I do this, and I'm always getting better, and I'll never stop ever again. So
That's
you're going to
awesome.
see some crazy stuff coming from me.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to it, man. Yeah, and it's always good to see, inspiration of different musicians and where they get their inspiration from, and knowing, like, from the topic that we were that we are on, knowing that there's things that keep you doing what you love, even if it's for a purpose of songwriting purposes, that you want to continue to write for a specific niche of people, or if you're just writing for yourself, or if you're just a musician because the music keeps you grounded and it's something that you necessarily need in your life to fill a void or just be able to express yourself in certain ways that you necessarily can't do. And that's kind of how I feel with me, that mucus has given me
Well,
music.
just coughed so bad.
This
Hands
is
on it. No camels, yo. It's a
but music has given me the ways of being able to express myself in ways that I wouldn't be able to do in just like general conversation. I feel that, like
well,
saying, going back into the fact that I'm not usually the one to spark up conversations with people, but give me a guitar in my hand, and and when I have the style of music and being able to portray, it's something that just, and I love being able to perform in front of people. I think that's the one of the other things outside of writing music, is just being able to perform. It's because I feel like I'm a different person when I'm on stage than when I'm just going through regular life, and it's just a thing that I love, being able to perform for people and see the reactions, and knowing that I'm entertaining them on a certain level that they're being satisfied for. So piano is like your first instrument, I assume, correct?
oh god, that is such a story in a good
What
way.
made you get into the piano?
Okay, so you can teach yourself a piano. You can't really teach yourself guitar so much. You can. I'm just saying, like, I couldn't. Like, I saw it and I looked at it and I was like, I don't understand this. And so there was, like, my brother, my dad, everybody would be like, no, you just do this, you just do that. And I was like, you do what? And you do what? And you do what? And I'm just like, fuck. Excuse me, screw this. So, like, it was just like instant frustration with I don't think that my fingers, like, being separate from each other is my strength. You know what I mean? But, like, with a piano, you can actually look at it. I remember being on Wikipedia. I bought, like, a keyboard for about $100. It was just like an old school kind of, not like a Casio or something like that. I'm too cool for that. But it was like something old that wasn't that great. And so we had a
I just wanted
we had,
to.
I had this thing, and I was just following along with songs with it while I was playing it, and I was looking at Wikipedia, and I was making little charts where to put your fingers for myself, because like teaching yourself for some of us is our. Sorry, I just want to steer this correctly. So teaching ourselves is one of our greatest qualities, right? And so I was just like, it's going to take me a while, but I'm going to learn this. Whereas with guitar, I was throwing my hands up and being like, this just seems so obscure and weird to me. Like piano, it just kind of called me in, and it was like, you can do this little by little. And therefore I kind of got to the point where I was able to duplicate what I was thinking in my head on Logic Pro in 2008 or something. And then I was like, okay, then I just play keys now. But I also had I have a lap steel. I played it actually last night for the first time publicly. But I've had lap steels before, open tune guitars, like slide guitar. I can do some of that too. And that's all I can do. Production, keys, and slide guitar. In open G, E. That's it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to, sit on piano and kind of, get a little better on piano. So hopefully I can get a little bit of time and, practice. I only have like a small MIDI keyboard, but, I can do a little bit here and there with the keyboard. But I always wanted to learn how to play like piano and keyboard. I always envy people who can, just sit down and just do a score and everything. It's really cool. I wanted to pull up this comment that we had here from Connor.
Connor, it's my boy, dude. Listen.
Yeah, he was loving your content. So thank you, Connor, for joining us tonight. And thank you, and really glad that you enjoyed the content. Thank you for watching Table Talk tonight.
Connor, thank you so much. Connor is Anthony. Can I shout out my other thing that I'm doing with him?
Absolutely.
Okay, so look, I'm doing another podcast with Connor. I believe is going to be my co-host for Zach recorded the first one for us. We did a dry run, but it's called Valis Palace, and it's named after Philip K. Dick, the science fiction writer who kind of predicted almost everything that is happening now. Like, he's the Blade Runner. He did Blade Runner, and he did like Total Recall and all these Minority Report and all these stories that got made into movies. But he had all these little stories about things that come true. But one of the things he kept talking about is how the Roman Empire never ended. Like, Rome is still here. Mm-hmm. And so, like, that's kind of what we're doing this podcast about. It's me and Connor. And so my boy, my soldier, my Roman soldier is actually, I'm sorry, my Athenian soldier, because we're Athens versus Rome. But anyway, he really, he showed up for me today, and thank you for that, Connor. But no, it's honestly like we're doing some stuff that's going to be very philosophy based. Like I have, I told you I have a Latin degree. Connor has a philosophy degree, and we're going to kind of split the difference between us. So like, it's not just music. It's like anything that you can do to express yourself. I can tell you, it feels good. Like if you can find a way as a person who has a history of being uncomfortable to find a way to be comfortable to do something like this, you just must. There's no other better bet for how to spend your time, right?
Absolutely.
Like it feels good to get your thoughts out to the folks in whatever way you can.
Absolutely. But yeah, Chris, I've had a great time with you tonight, and glad that we've been able to catch up and learn a little bit more about each other. I feel we have so much more to talk about, so we definitely need to get you on here again so we can, continue to talk our conversations. I feel there's so much more that we need to open up and bring in, so we'll definitely be doing like a part 2 of this. And just want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. You're watching the episode 24 of Table Talk. My name is Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life. I'm here tonight with Chris Ryan. Make sure you check him out on Facebook. And I know you said you're getting your socials up, so are you going to be making an Instagram soon? Or
I'm not quite sure, but I'll tell you this: catch me on Facebook, even if it is not your thing. That's where I'm at. If you like my stuff, and I will get you all the stuff that I put out in the next week or 2 or beyond. Please do, if you're interested.
You got Thank you so much. Free music on the way, guys. So make sure you check out Chris Ryan. He's got a lot more stuff coming. Make sure to check him out. And once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Table Talk, guys. I will see you on the next episode. Have a great night, everyone.